All right, let's say hello now to the man who has definitely been in the news as of late. Of course, he competed this Saturday at the Triller event in Atlanta, Georgia against Jake Paul. Unfortunately, it did not go Ben's way, but much like 2 years ago when things didn't go his way against Jorge Masvidal, here he is on a Monday speaking about it all. You can say a lot of things about Ben Askren. The one thing you cannot say is that when things don't go his way, he hides. He faces the music, he answers the questions, and I appreciate that very much about him. Ben, thank you for doing this. How are you doing?
Yeah, I wish we had some more positive things to speak about at some point. I mean, I
We
have a lot
will.
of great things in my life. You just don't care about all
That's
those other
not
things.
true.
Well, I mean, it's fair. You don't have to care about what my kids do or what my wrestling academies do. But I do have a lot of positive things going on in my life. Um, and obviously, the big noteworthy ones have not went my way recently.
Well, they went your way for a very long time
They did.
in Bellator and won championship and early on in the UFC. And we will get to that because I think it's actually a very good point about your legacy and all that stuff. But first, here we are, less than 48 hours removed from this wild and wacky event in which, of course, you did lose in the first round to Jake Paul.
Yes.
How are you feeling about everything that happened on Saturday night?
Um, I mean, obviously, it wasn't ideal, but I feel like I told everyone going into the fight many, many times. And then there's a photo of my wife and I kind of smiling with each other. It was circulating. I didn't give a after the Monday after. I'm going to be doing podcasts and coaching wrestling, win, lose, or draw. Like there was no more fights for me. That was it. And obviously, I would have liked to win, but it was like the referee stopped it. And I said, "Are you really sure that's what you want to do?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I'm fine." And then that was it. So then I'm like, okay, I don't need to be here anymore. I'm out of here.
Do you regret taking the fight?
No, not at all. It's like so the oh, I mean, I actually I figured you were gonna ask that question. And the only reason I would not have taken the fight, the one and only reason, actually happened, right? And the reason is the ability to be or the ability to have an embarrassing moment. And that's a terrible reason not to do it, in my opinion. Like I said, I was going to take, I said the main two reasons I'm going to take it because I'm getting paid really well. And I thought it was a fun opportunity. I still think it was both of those things. I mean, there was certain things about leading in the 11 weeks leading up to it that kind of stressed me out because some things weren't really well organized. But overall, I really enjoyed myself and I made a lot of money. And unfortunately, I didn't get the result I wanted to. But again, Monday afterwards, I'm just going to go back to my regular everyday life.
You mentioned an interesting word there, embarrassed. I'm wondering if you are more embarrassed, if at all, by this result than the Masvidal fight.
I would say they're equally embarrassing. The Masvidal fight obviously meant a lot more to me. I mean, this was a fight that had little significance in my life. And the Masvidal fight had gigantic significance. You know, my Masvidal fight, if I won that, I was going to fight for the UFC title, which was the only belt at that point that I hadn't held. And if I go on, if I go on to win it, then I'm the first person to kind of, I don't even say unify, but collect all three of those major belts. I'm the first person to do it. So, yeah, I mean, the Masvidal match mattered a lot more to me. If we're talking about just from significantly from an embarrassing standpoint, I think they're probably equally as embarrassing.
Because I think that despite your issues with Masvidal, if you want to call him that, I think you have a respect for him, and I think deep down he would admit that he has a respect for you. I don't know even till now, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you even respect Jake Paul, and that's why I was wondering if this was
Mhm.
more embarrassing to you.
Well, you know what I would say to that. I would say, yeah, obviously George Masvidal is a good fighter. That's for sure. Um, but I don't know that I really respect him as a person.
Hmm.
As a fighter, I do. Right, he
Hmm.
fights hard. No matter what, he fights hard. Generally speaking, he might not have all the skills, but he does fight very hard. Um, yeah, it kind of says going to the Jake Paul fight. It's like, I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to find out, but it's like he could be a good fighter. We don't. The answer is we don't know. It's like, well, if you want to gamble on this fight, it's like this is like the worst fight ever to gamble on because there's literally so many unknowns. I mean, you don't know anything, um, and so I don't know. Maybe he's good. I don't think so. I think I just didn't defend the overhand right really well, and maybe he does land that punch hard. But still it's TBD because he's going to fight probably someone who's significantly better at boxing than I am. And if he beats them, we'll see. I mean, so him and Tyron are kind of been going back and forth. Um, we'll see if that happens. I would love for that to happen because Tyron is a significantly better boxer than myself. He's very good, has a lot of power. So I'd be interested to see what happens there.
Have your opinions on Jake, the fighter, and or even the person changed at all after all of this?
No, he appears to be a pretty person. I think, and I've had some people tell me, I literally asked them, I said, well, come on, just on TV or in real life, and they're like, no, in real life too. But I don't know him in real life. I've never met him. I've never spent time with him, so I don't know for sure.
What about as a fighter?
He's got a good overhand right. I didn't defend it well enough. I mean, I heard my corners yelling. A big part of my training camp and every coach that I worked with said this was my guard was too loose. And part of the reason was because I fought MMA for 10 years. I wanted people to throw overhand rights because that's generally the easiest punch to get a takedown off of, right? When they loop the right hand, it's really easy to get a takedown. So my guard was always significantly open on that side. And it was just something that was repeated. And I even heard both Tyron and Biggie say that in my corner, tighten up your guard. Tyron was on my ass all week about it, actually. Rightfully so. And it was something like I tried to make myself do. I really did, but it was still the bad part. It was still a conscious thought. It was like your guard's too loose, tighten it up. And if you're competing in athletics, you don't want to have conscious thoughts, right? You want to have those things happen. But I boxed for 11 weeks. I fought mixed martial arts for a decade. So it was kind of a hard habit to break.
I don't think I've ever asked a fighter this question after a fight, and knowing you like I do, I don't think you are going to be offended by the question,
Go
but
for
I
it.
think you will not be surprised by the question at all. Um, did you train for this fight?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Does it bother you that people are insinuating you did not?
No, I get it. I get it. I mean, a part of it's just because my physique looks like, but I mean, you guys made fun of my physique when I fought 170. What do you think?
I never made fun of your physique,
Okay.
for the record.
Either way, a lot of people did. It's fine. I'm okay with it, right? It's just what my body looks like. And listen, hey, listen, all you people love you guys for love yourself for who you are, right? You can't change the way your body looks. Well, I guess you can if you want to pay for a lot of plastic surgeries, and some people unfortunately end up doing that. But you are who you are, right? And that's me. So you made fun of how I looked when I was 170. What did you think was going to happen when you added 22 pounds to that physique? And honestly, and there was one photo posted of it, and I told Triller it was so dumb. But like when I first started training, right? So I had 11 weeks to prepare. I was like 215. Because I literally hadn't been working out. My hip surgery I was just literally getting kind of cleared to get back after it. And I was really, really heavy. I said, don't come take pictures because I look like, I know I'm going to lose weight. So maybe like come back in a few weeks. And I ended up losing like, I don't know, 20, 22, 23 pounds, something like that over the course of the camp, to the point where I cut like, I don't know, 3 pounds for 192, maybe something to that effect.
And so, I'm wondering in hindsight, we've seen this historically in MMA. BJ Penn moves up to 170. He doesn't train as hard because he knows he has 15 extra pounds. Do you think that in hindsight you were like, oh, I don't have to push myself as much because I don't have to lose as much weight? Like maybe trying to come in at 170 would have actually been better, despite the fact that you would have been giving up 15, 20 pounds.
Well, so I never would have got down that far.
Okay.
So if we're talking about water weight cut, so water weight cut to 170, I usually cut from like 183 pounds.
Okay.
So it was my walking weight, and then I'd water weight the rest off. Here, I was probably 194, 195. So I'm like 10 or 11 pounds above. But again, over the course of 11 weeks, I dropped 20-ish pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost a lot of weight. And I don't think if they would have said fight 170, I would have said, I can't get there in that time. It's impossible because of where I'm starting at. Remember that I was retired. This came out of nowhere.
Sure.
And really the only things I really focused on the entire camp were, the boxing skill part of it, and then getting in shape to fight 8 rounds hard. That was really it. And there was nothing. I mean, there's nothing else to it. That was it.
I'm sure that you are seeing people say it was rigged.
Yeah.
You took the punch, you went through it. To see that, to have like your integrity questioned, does that bother you?
Man, that's human nature. It is. It definitely didn't happen. I got hit. I mean, I guess the question I would ask those people is what do I gain by it? I told you guys what I made for this fight. It was a very nice paycheck, but I'm also not destitute and poor. Um, and so what do I gain by that? And the answer is nothing. I think in fact I would actually lose a lot. And no, it's not that's not something that would ever cross my mind.
In the build up to the fight, like even Saturday, even in the locker room when you woke up, were you confident you were going to win this fight? Or, obviously you said what you said in the lead up, and your
Yeah.
team said what they said, but like now that it's over, deep down, were you questioning yourself at all, or did you really feel like you would beat this guy?
You know what I said? So I said, if the guy's a good boxer, I'm going to lose.
Mm.
I had started, there was a certain fear he had around me. Um, and I was starting to get the feeling that maybe he's not very good. Like,
Mm.
why is he so nervous and worried? And because I'm obviously not a really good boxer, maybe he's not very good. There's probably the point, just the vibes he was giving me, where there's probably a better chance that that's the case than opposite. Um, so yeah, in the locker room, I was getting pretty confident that I was going to win. But then, I'm going to go to the other thing is that I told you guys, I've told you this already. On Monday, I'm going to do the same thing. And so the other thing about that is the result right afterwards, not during. If I'm during the fight, I'm going to try to fight as hard as I can. But afterwards, it's kind of irrelevant to me. My life is going to be the exact same, one way or the other. So, when I ask kids to compete for me at AWA, when they're going to compete, I say, I want you to prepare as hard as you can. And when you're out there, I want you to give it as much effort as you can. I did those things. I came up short. It's obviously highly embarrassing, as we talked about. And listen, I knew there was that risk going into it. I was willing to take that risk.
Would it be fair to frame the whole thing like this? You were done. You had hip surgery in August, right, of 2020?
September 1.
September 1, right? Okay. So you were done. You had no intentions of fighting again MMA.
Zero.
You were done as a pro athlete of any kind.
Yes.
And they picked you. They anointed you. You had a bit of a back and forth with Jake. You would comment on the Nate Robinson fight, this, and they came out. You didn't necessarily seek this fight. They picked you clearly because he is his own promoter. He knows he's going to try to pick the easiest fight in his mind, and he tried to pick the guy with the biggest name that he could beat the easiest. And
Correct.
for you, this was almost like a lottery ticket. Like, hey, I wasn't planning on any of this. I'm going to take this money. If I win, I win. If I don't, no stress, no loss for me. I'll just go back to my usual life on that following Monday. That's pretty much your approach to how this all went down, right?
Yeah, I think that's a really good synopsis, Ariel. Yeah, I think that's very true. And I I literally said that at the press conference, and then he said no, it's Dylan Dennis. I said, well, I know he was Dylan Dennis, but then Dylan Dennis said no because he's a little. Um, and I said yes, and I laid it out. I said popularity, credibility, and but you're still going to try to get the easiest guy that you can get. And I thought he was picking on some of those too easy, and I was going to be able to get him. And obviously, unfortunately, I was wrong.
Last Monday when I was doing the show with DC, he was speaking directly to you. I don't know if you saw the clip,
I
but he's
didn't see
like,
it.
he just said basically like, be you, do a
Yeah,
little trip, a little Steve Mako style, a little,
yeah,
let him know that if this was an actual fight, no
yeah.
rules, you could put him on his ass and show him who's boss. Did that ever cross your mind?
I wasn't opposed to doing that if it just so if I found myself in that sequence, I wasn't going to go out of my way, right, and like shoot a regular penetration stuff. But if it got to the sequence where we're moving a certain way and I just could trip, yeah, I was going to do it. But like, I wasn't gonna like pick him up and try to slam him
Mhm.
or anything. Like just way, way, way out of my way. Um, yeah. So no, it wasn't totally out of the question. The referee, actually, I don't want to about the referee because he did what he did, and I understand what it was, but he broke us up so fast from the two clinches that we were in.
Mm.
And then when you see that in contrast to the Mir Cunningham fight that was earlier, like they clinched like for half a freaking round, so at this point, I didn't get to spend a little more time in there because I think that was, that was the place, that was the goal, was to get there and then have success there. And he broke us up, literally within a second. It's unfortunate.
Do you think he did that, you know, because of who you are, because of your skill set?
I feel like all boxers are conspiracy theorists, so
Mm.
I don't want to make that connection. I'm just saying the fact that You watch the one fight that was 2 fights earlier, and then you watch our fight, and then there's a very contrasting difference.
Mhm.
It's unfortunate. Frank Mir actually fought really tough.
Yeah.
I thought he was obviously a huge underdog. He fought really hard.
Yeah, I thought he represented himself very well. Is there anything? I know it was a short fight. Anything you wish you did differently in that? Like, oh, if like, is there anything that you're replaying in your brain, a sequence
I
that you
keep my
wish?
damn left hand in.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and like I said, we went over it. It was just, I just couldn't break the habit in the time I needed to break the habit in. Fought for a decade, and that was the way I fought. And there was no negative repercussions from it in fighting. I never took an overhand right in fighting, not one time. I don't believe. I don't. I definitely, if it was, if I did, it was insignificant. Like, it wasn't a hard one. And that was mostly because I could bait people into then attacking their body or attacking the double leg.
How do you feel about the stoppage?
So I thought I was ready to fight. I told the guy I was ready to fight. But I said this earlier. I said if I took my wrestling team to an opponent's gym, the kid gets on his back, and he's not really pinned. The referee slaps the mat, and he comes over and says, "Coach, I wasn't freaking pinned." I said, "Well, dude, we're in the opponent's gym. You can't get put on your back."
Mm.
And that's how I feel like it. I was in the opponent's gym, and I feel like I was fine, and I feel like I told the official I was fine. And again, I don't want to draw a conspiracy theory, but yeah, I mean, I told him I was good to go, and so the last thing I'm going to do is blow up at a referee over what I think is not the right call, because it's immature, and it's immature, and there's no efficiency to it. Like, it's not going to solve anything. If anything, it's going to get me fined by the commission. But he's going to say, "Oh, you're really mad at me? I guess I'll just change my call." Like, that's not going to happen.
You've been in there with some of the hardest hitting welterweights in the world: Robbie Lawler, Jorge Masvidal, Lima, etc. You felt his power. How would you compare his power to some of the? And obviously, he's wearing different gloves. But how would you compare his power to other shots you've taken from other great fighters?
Well, the other thing in MMA is I didn't really get hit a lot.
The Lawler fight was significant.
The Lawler fight was significant. My face hurt the next day, dude. So it was that spot behind the ear was where he clipped me that put you off balance, and like I didn't really feel it. Right, I was just I'm on the ground. Okay, get up, and then it was like there's not like a lot of pain there. So I don't know. He hit me hard enough to knock me down. Sorry, I believe that.
No worries.
And that was right. That's it. He hit me hard enough to knock me down. I got up, and then the referee said, "Hey, you didn't get up fast enough." And I said, "Okay." He didn't really land. He kind of like a little bit landed a couple punches before that, and none of them really hurt. They didn't feel all that powerful, but they were boxing gloves as opposed to MMA gloves.
You mentioned something about being in his gym. What was the experience like all week? Like, it was very clear this was built around him. He's the star, if you will. Did you feel the love, or did you feel like, oh, I'm here to lose? Like, everyone here wants me to lose. Everyone here is hoping I lose. Like, what was the feeling like all week in Atlanta for you?
You know what? I felt more like that in Las Vegas, and then the more I got close to the fight, like.
You mean, and for the record, you mean Las Vegas last month for the press conference, right?
Correct. Yes.
I just didn't want people
I had to
to
go up
think.
and do this interview with Snoop and Jake, and it was really like, the CEO was talking to Jake, and Snoop Dogg was talking to Jake, and I'm sitting here by myself, like, let's just do this interview and get me out of here,
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely felt that way. But the CEO actually donated to my wife's cousin, who had childhood cancer, and they sat down and talked, and he said some really nice things. And then, a handful of the chiller people were Jake has a very big ego, and he thinks he can do things whoever he wants to do things. And I could tell without them verbalizing their annoyance, I could tell they were annoyed. So I actually didn't really feel that way very much at all.
Okay, that's good. I mean, you mentioned Snoop. I guess he's a part owner, and he's also on the broadcast, and he's celebrating when you lose. Does that
Yeah,
annoy
and
you?
someone else brought up the fact that he's part owner and he was betting against me, which really seems like a conflict of interest. And I don't remember who said it to me after the fight. And I'm like, yeah, wait, that's kind of up, isn't it? That someone who's the owner, who has control over this thing is also has a financial interest in a certain fighter losing. I think that's what Pete Rose got banned from baseball for.
I mean, to a degree, a little different. Pete Rose wasn't an owner; he was just a manager. But
Like someone who has control.
yeah, fair enough.
Yes.
What time did you get to the arena?
I didn't get there till like nine-ish.
9 Eastern. So that was like the start of the main card.
Yeah, correct.
What is going through Ben Askren's mind when you're seeing all the musical acts, all the hijinks? We don't have to get into like all the stuff, but like, I mean, that was a surreal. And then the Pete Davidson thing, which I have to ask you about, like the whole thing was just surreal. First, before we get into Pete Davidson, in particular, what is going through your mind as you're watching this all unfold and you're the headliner? And I'm assuming, as you alluded to in that interview, like a lot of your students and you know your rest are watching this and their parents and all. Like, what is actually going through your mind when you're in the locker room?
I mean, and this is like Tyron was helping me a lot because I'm so out of touch with pop culture. Like, I do my podcast, I go play disc golf and chop down and burn, and then I go coach wrestling. That's like what my day is mostly consisting of. So I have never heard of Sweetie or I don't recall who the other people were.
I mean, you've heard of Ice Cube and Snoop.
Yeah, well, that's my era. So yes, I had heard
the Black Keys. You know the Black Keys.
I couldn't have told you. You said name a Black Keys song. I would say I don't know. I can
Bieber.
tell you Bieber is.
Yeah,
I know Bieber.
All right.
I couldn't probably list a whole bunch of his songs, but I could tell you he people really like him. So anyways, yeah, when it's going on, it's just like I just whatever. I just got to wait till the fight going on, and I was kind of like the pacing was very slow. So initially, I think they told me I was gonna make my walk at 11:45, and then eventually said, well, actually it's gonna be like 12:30 or whatever. And it's like that's way past my bedtime. But okay, but yeah. So I mean, I thought two things. I thought over sexualized performances, and this I told Tyron in the locker room, like, dude, I'm such a dad now. Like, maybe I'm an old guy. I think Tyron actually complained about over-sexualized also, because I think I made the joke that we're both old guys. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I'm not. I think it was something like that. And the second thing was like the glorification of weed, which, listen, I don't. If you're an adult and you want to go smoke weed, I think it should be legal everywhere. I don't really care at all. But just the glorification of it when kids are watching, like, I didn't really love that. And that was what I said. So the guy behind the camera in the Pete Davidson interview was the executive producer. And I said to him, like, dude, I'm like kind of embarrassed to be associated with this. And like, I don't really like that I am right now.
What did he say?
I don't think he had a response. I mean, it's on camera.
Okay.
I don't think he just,
okay.
Right, because I was sitting there talking to Pete, and Pete said something about it, and I saw the guy right there, so I said something to him, and I don't know. He maybe shrugged his shoulder. Probably thought, "Oh, that guy's a freaking," which maybe I am, but I'm a guy who's going to say what he thinks at all times, regardless of who's in the room.
And okay, so now give me the timeline for this Pete Davidson thing, because that was just I texted you this, like it was like a pro wrestling. So Pete Davidson of SNL fame, comedian, all that stuff, popular guy, goes into the locker room of Jake Paul and is basically like telling him how big of a fan he is. And then you, a couple of weeks ago when it was announced that he was going to be a part of it, you tweeted like, "Oh my God, I can't believe Pete Davidson."
Totally forgot that too, and he brought that up.
Yeah, but then correct me if I'm wrong, you tweet like, "This weasel, I dare him to come to my locker room."
Well, yeah, because he went over and said I'm a tool, and I can't remember what else he said. It was something not all that nice.
So you're watching this? You're watching?
I'm watching it. So I said, okay, come interview me.
And so he does. Like, was that even a plan, or did you?
No one told me it was a plan. It probably, I wasn't involved in anything. I'm just sitting in my locker room.
Yeah.
So then he did. Cool.
And so he does. And what do you think is going to happen? And then what is your thought when he does all of a sudden say, "No, I don't actually like that guy. I'm rooting for you"?
Oh, geez. Hold on. Pulled the microphone out.
I still hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So no, I listen, Ariel, this is one of the things people probably like the most about me.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you exactly what I think and exactly how I feel, regardless of who you are or if we're on camera or not. And so he came in. I said, "Sit down. Why are you such a?" Or I don't remember what I said. Something. The interview's online, right? You can watch it.
Yeah, it was incredible.
And then he said, "Well, you actually said this about me first," which I'm like, okay, you know what? That's a very fair point. I totally forgot I said that. And it was kind of more said in jest that, well, he's not a boxing expert, obviously. That was why I made that comment. And Hey, we kind of got along or hit it off, and maybe he was acting after that. I don't know, but then he goes on to say, "No, we actually all hate Jake Paul." And then, then where I got it for good though was and I said, "Well, why?" And he said, "Well, I don't have an hour." I said, "Well, I do. Why don't you tell me?" And then, he proceeds to list off a handful of reasons why nobody really likes him.
That was very, by the way, did you know who he was before all this? Like, are you a fan of his?
Yeah, well, I don't know about a fan. Unfortunately, the only one incident I know him from was when he made fun of, oh my gosh, what's his name? With the guy with the eye patch, senator, congressman, Dan
Oh,
Crenshaw. Dan
yeah, yeah,
Crenshaw.
yeah.
So he made fun of him.
That was a few years ago. Right, right,
Yeah,
right.
which I thought was distasteful. But then, you know what? To his credit, I believe, and hopefully I'm not wrong on this, but I think Dan Crenshaw then went on the show,
Hmm.
and then I think that they kind of hashed it out, which
Yep.
that to his credit, that's good. When you say some stupid, then you own up to it, then you're all good.
He had a movie that came out recently called The King of Staten Island.
Oh, really?
Maybe you and your wife will. It was actually a really good movie. I don't know if you know about his past. His dad died in 9/11. And
I
so
didn't know that.
yeah, it's kind of based on his upbringing. So in any event, that was surreal to watch. And then you go out there and the fight kind of plays out the way it does. Did you go back and watch it at all in the last 2 days? Do you have any
Um,
interest in doing so?
I saw a couple clips because
Yeah.
Portnoy put up this clip of "My head is Bitcoin," and then I saw someone else put up the clip. Yeah, I mean it sucks because I mean I knew what happened, like with the Masvidal thing. I didn't know what happened with the thing that happened. I knew exactly what happened, and it sucks because I remember, right before that, again, I had to consciously think about my coaches kept saying, "Stop reacting to his fake, and your guard's too loose." And they kept saying that, and I remember hearing them say that, and I remember a couple times saying, "Okay, pull your guard in," and then I obviously realized I got hit with an overhead right, and then I got up, and so for me there really wasn't a need to watch it.
Does it feel like deja vu a little bit? Everyone talking about you on a Monday and this moment that you would have preferred not happen, and like you
Not
mentioned,
really.
no, it
No,
doesn't.
because like I said, the last one I really cared about. I mean, I wanted to go complete the trifecta and win all three belts. It was one of the most important things I was chasing, and it was a gigantic emotional letdown. Um, and with this one, I told you guys all before, I don't give a I
Mm.
don't. In the contest, I'm going to try to win. In the preparation, I'm going to try to prepare as well as I can. But when it's over, it's whatever. So, win or loss, I'm gonna go back and my life's gonna be the same as it was the Monday, or probably probably like we'll say 3 months right before I sign for the fight. My life is gonna be the exact same as it was, and I really enjoy my life. I love what I get to do for a living, and that's it. So it's like, honestly, I had some high school buddies over. We grilled some food last night and we threw some disc, and it was like I almost forgot what happened for a minute, and then I'm like, oh, I talk to Helwani tomorrow. Ah, damn it. Like, oh yeah, got knocked out by Jake Paul this weekend. Oh, that sucks. It's kind of a bad Saturday.
Mm. Um, by the way, one last thing on the fight. The ring was super small. Did that surprise you?
Yes, but they had the size in there, and I did not take a tape measure, but I thought it was better for me, right, to be able to
Yeah.
control center
Hmm.
and do that. No, so I actually thought it was good that it was small.
Jake is throwing out numbers of how it did on pay-per-view. Does this affect you at all? Do you get a piece of this pie?
Fortunately, I didn't. I proposed that in the negotiations, and I just right. It was if I wanted that, then they were gonna probably try to find somebody else.
Are you surprised by these numbers? If in fact I mean, it sounds like
It's
everyone is.
it's it's so fascinating. And someone else said that it's going to be the most pirated event ever, which I don't even know how you measure that metric.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it you? Did you say
I
that?
did
I
not
don't,
say that. No, no.
okay, someone said that. Um, And it's puzzling to me that this is an event that, to me, it has no, like I said, we compare it to the Masvidal loss, which was deeply emotional to me. Um, this fight, it has no meaning. Like, what does it mean to me? It doesn't mean anything. So a fight that doesn't mean anything to me, captured the way it captured the public's imagination, and everyone wanted to have an opinion on it. It was so fascinating. And actually, there's the picture of my wife and I kind of laughing afterwards. And all week leading up to this, my wife was like, I had no idea. Like, I knew you were going to do a boxing match, and I'm sure some people were going to watch it, but like the public spectacle that this became, like she was just blown away from it. And so after the fight, she said, like, well, this is a saying she says to me, I think it's kind of maybe to keep us grounded or to just realize we're regular. Like, what is your life? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? You just were boxing and there was a robot and Snoop Dogg
Yeah.
and Mario Lopez and Bieber was over there singing. Like, what are you doing with your
Yeah.
life? And it's like, I don't know. I have
It's
no idea.
crazy.
It's
Would you say
wild.
that this felt bigger than anything you had ever been a part of?
Like again, so are we talking about my perspective or are we talking about public perspective?
Like in terms of like, so the reason I asked that is the amount of texts I got Friday and Saturday from people who never talked to me about my job, never talked to me about MMA. Like this was on par, if not maybe even more than a Conor fight, in the sense that people were like, who's going to win? How's this going to go? Tell me about Ben Askren. Like, so
Yes.
I'm like, well, you care about this? So that to me is like a small little gauge of like how big it got in my little world. And so I'm wondering for you, did it feel like
Well,
more?
you have a big role there. You're kind of like a superstar or something now.
No. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like when people
No, I
reach
get what
out,
you're saying. Yes, no, it became a bigger public spectacle than anything I've ever done, and it was the thing I probably cared about the least. Like I
that's
said,
wild. That's wild.
didn't give a damn. I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna work out hard. Now I'm gonna fight you as hard as I can. But at the end of the day, on Monday, I'm gonna go back to what I was doing before. And it's so funny because I said this about, who I said this about? I said this about Demetrius Johnson. Trey, it's like I really enjoy him a lot. But for whatever reason, he just didn't catch on with the public's imagination. And there's some of these things that catch the public's imagination, and you're almost at a loss for like, why are so many people interested? I mean, at the end of the day, there was two not very good boxers going at it, and that's what you were interested in. And so, not you specifically, right, but the public. Like, why was the public so interested in two guys who weren't very good at boxing? It's kind of mind blowing.
So let me ask you about that, because this is an insane phenomenon and he is tapping into a lot of people's emotions. It's almost become Jake Paul versus MMA. You have all these fighters now coming out and trying to challenge him. And you have all these boxing people and the media's covering. Like the fact that this guy who only had 2 pro fights leading up to this makes over $1 million against someone who was retired and just had hip surgery. But he is disrupting the whole combat sports pay-per-view model. And I think it's a fascinating business experiment. I'm just wondering, why do you think people care so much? Why is this working so well for him?
Yeah. I mean, well, so I don't want to be arrogant, but Ariel, I think a lot of it was me on this one. We'll see if he could do it. I mean, the last one he doesn't get credit for because it was Tyson versus Jones. Yeah. I mean, for example, for that last one, I tuned into Tyson versus Jones. I didn't watch Nate Paul. What's his name?
Jake Paul.
Nate and Jake. I didn't watch that fight. Right. I saw it afterwards on a clip on YouTube or something. But I personally tuned in for Tyson and Roy Jones. So I don't think he really gets credit for that one. On this
Didn't you
one,
tweet about it? Like there's a tweet that is popping up, like, why is Nate Robinson doing this? I thought that was from the night.
Yeah, it was me. Nate Robinson actually reached out to me. And I mean, I thought,
no way.
I don't want to say I talked on him, but I said Jake Paul has been in there for two not very good boxers, so we don't actually know a lot about him. So I thought it was, man, give me a lot of respect for Nate Robinson for, I didn't really ever specifically say anything negative about him. I just said, Jake was in there against two guys who never boxed before. Yeah. So Nate reached out.
When did he reach out? After the fight?
Yes, Sunday morning or something.
What did he say?
My phone's over this. My phone's charging over there. He just said something like, yeah, I understand how bad it sucks, and the public will forget about it, which I didn't know. I don't know if I agree with him on that one, because I've been getting the Masvidal knee gift for effing 2 years. So the public doesn't really forget. And that, hey, as long as you have good people around you, your life's gonna go on. And to that part I agree with. I keep telling you, I love what I do for a living, and I love my wife, and I have some awesome kids, and we had a great day yesterday. And so, yeah, life does go on.
And if it was up to you, who would he fight next? Who would Jake Paul fight next?
No, Tyron's my obvious pick. Because Tyron's way better at boxing than I am, like way, way, way better. That's not even really a comparison in my mind. To me, like I wasn't good at boxing at all. And my whole take was, I can put 11 weeks into this and be good enough to beat him. That was my take from the beginning. Tyron is actually very good at boxing. So that's, obviously I'd like to see Jake lose. Yeah, so I hope it's Tyron.
So you hope he sticks with and I appreciate you vouching for your friend, but like Tyron's not a pro boxer, right? So
Correct.
there's not a party that's like, oh no, he should fight a pro boxer at this point.
Well, if we're talking about like, a smart business model for him,
Yeah, this is working.
it's where, and Tyron's probably even too big of a step up, honestly.
Mm.
Yeah, someone like a Dylan Dennis or someone who's not very good that's probably the better move. I think at some point the public would push him to take a step up. I don't think now is the time yet where they would. Now he might, right? He may take a step up in competition, but I think the public would give him a few more where, he could fight guys who maybe weren't quite as good, and it would still be kind of like okay.
Just a couple more for you, and I'll let you go. Did you make more on Saturday than any other night in your MMA career?
Yes.
Is that mind blowing to you?
So stupid.
Is it by considerable amount? A good enough amount?
30%.
Wow.
40%.
That is wild. So even you as a champion, even you in the UFC,
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, so honestly, okay, I thought about this. Oh, this is kind of utterly depressing, Ariel. Thought about this. I made more in the Jake Paul fight, on just on my base purse, nothing else included, than all of my fight purses in Bellator combined. That's 9 wins.
Wow.
So I made 100 in the tournament. That's my first 3 wins. On my last 5 fights, I made 200,000. On this one, I said that's 300,000 total. I made 28 and 32. So I made $360,000 in total purses.
Wow.
In my run in Bellator. Listen, I thought I was making good money at that time. I was really happy with it. I wasn't discouraged. I knew, obviously I knew if I kept winning, it would probably lead to bigger things. But like when you think about that, I'm like, holy is that like that's real. That's crazy.
That is crazy. So so the number that was out there is legit about what you made.
My base pay was 500. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. By the way, that whole thing with Tyron and like when you went into the locker room
that
and the
one guy.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually don't really dislike Jake. I would say I'm more indifferent. Like it's just whatever. Jake's Jake. But his like cheerleading squad is like they're gross. They're gross human beings. Like the fact that Jake pays you to be his little groupies is like, what are you doing in your life as men that this is your job? Like, okay, he can have a coach and he can have a training partner. That's cool. Those are I don't want to say respectable professions because anyone can do anything for a life, and I don't want to judge what they're doing to make a living. But some of these men who are his cheerleading squad, it's gross that's what you decided that you want to do with your living. It's kind of pathetic. And there's one individual in specific. I'm not even gonna say his name, but it's out there. He is just like a gross individual. Like he is a pathetic human being. And he was in my locker room to watch me get my hands wrapped. And I was trying to ignore him because he wouldn't shut the hell up. And then I finally said, what is your job title and what do you get paid? Like, what do you do? And I do everything. I said, no, like specific. I'm really asking you specifically, what is it that you do? Are you a coach? Are you a nutritionist? What are you? And he said, and he literally doesn't have his job title for me is like little cheerleader. Like, I don't know how much someone had to pay you. And I don't think there's a figure for me. I mean, maybe there is, right? I don't want to act too proud. Maybe it's like $10 million for the year that someone could pay me to come be their cheerleader. Like it's really embarrassing and kind of gross that a grown man would do that.
2 last things. You are one of the greatest American wrestlers ever. 2-time Dan Hodge Trophy winner, Olympian, like we said, multiple times.
I don't know. I think that's a little too. I don't want to say greatest ever.
You are one of. I don't say the greatest. You are.
I don't know if I had to make a list. I think you can put my college career probably in the top 15-ish, but my international career didn't go very long because I decided to transition to mixed martial arts. I know I saw someone had a good list a while back. I was at number 42, and I thought that was pretty fair.
How many 2-time? I don't know if they're. And I will admit, I'm not a huge.
There's only 3 other ones.
Right. Ever.
So
right?
that's American college wrestling, not everything.
No, I know.
Now that this was about 10 years ago, and we've had a lot of success lately. So
And for
I
those
don't
that don't
know.
know, that's like the Heisman, right? That would be fair
Correct. Yes.
I mean, that's incredible. I don't
So
care.
we'll say top. I think you could say top 100 career ever.
Okay.
Which, if you want to say that's GOAT status,
I don't want to say GOAT status. I just want to say you're one of the best. And I think
I just want to be fair. I just want to be fair about
I
what you're
appreciate the
saying.
humility. Okay, are you worried that this stuff will be your legacy at the end of the day? Because I said this leading up to the fight, and it was bothering me that people were talking about you in a certain way, and I tried to remind people, hip surgery. You don't need me to defend your honor, but
I
like, come
don't.
on, guys.
But you know what? I've already said this to you, Ariel. We've already discussed this topic.
No, but now that it's over, are you?
No. We discussed this later. Legacy is stupid. Legacy is something that people shouldn't really be concerned about. Because you should just be worried about what you're doing on the day-to-day basis. Like moving forward, well, I'm gonna keep trying to coach as many kids and change as many lives as I can. And if I somehow long-term achieve something and people want to think back on me favorably or unfavorably, then they're gonna do that. But you can't determine what other people think, and you can't let what other people think dictate your actions. And so I've already told you, I think legacy is a relatively stupid concept. From a self perspective, like I'm going to do this because of my legacy. I think that's a really negative thing for people to actually think about. So I try not to think about it ever for myself.
But you don't sit back and say like, man, when I'm 60, is this going to be the first line, or is this going to be the footnote?
Never, ever.
That's good.
Because you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. It's counterproductive to your current life to think about what people may think of you in your future life. Just like literally do what you want to do in your current life, and if it fits your morals and standards, and if you can stand by it, then stand by it. And if you think you should be doing other things, then go do other things, and that's it. But to think of what is someone going to think of me in 30 years, that's counterproductive.
And so you have won way more in your life than you have lost. However, and I hope you take this the right way, you're one of the best losers that I've ever met, in the sense that you handle defeat, and you don't just lose, you have lost twice in a very public and spectacular way, and you handle it better than anyone. Who taught you how to do that? Because
I would just say the thing that taught me to never ever be. I think my dad was probably a big influence of like not being scared, just go freaking do, But the other thing I think that was probably a big influence is I wasn't good. I wasn't good in the beginning, so it's just like I'm just gonna go compete as much as I can. If I lose, I lose, and then I'll just keep moving from there. And then I probably should credit a little bit to the fact that I'm slightly autistic. I think that's like allows me to just like be in the moment with whatever I'm doing right now.
That's
like
legit. That's legit.
I had not medical, so oh man, I actually gotta go in like 3 minutes. But so I had a friend who was diagnosed very high functioning, and I had a handful of other people really close to me who said, I think you are. And then with this person, it was like, oh my God, we're the same person. Like, so I think I did. Actually, I bought this out of her recommendation. I still have to read the text for it, but this she said it would help my wife deal with my better if we could just read through the autistic section in there and understand why certain things are the way they are. But yeah, so I mean, like when she was telling me certain things about her life, it's like, oh, I do that exact thing. Oh, I do that exact thing. And so for me, it's like we have a bunch of big wrestling tournaments coming up, and I'm significantly more concerned with what's going to happen in them and preparing for those than I am what happened last weekend. And that's just like in my nature to just like move on to the next thing immediately.
Last thing. What were you and your wife talking about on camera there as you were walking away? Was that when she said, "What is your life?"
Yeah, we didn't say, "Oh yeah, what is your life?" And again, she said something like, she said something like, "What is you?" It's a way to kind of keep me grounded. And just remember that we're regular people. Like, I think she said, "What is your life?" You have Snoop Dogg and Mario Lopez and a robot, and Justin Bieber was over there singing. And I said, "Yeah." I think I said, "Yeah," and I made a ton of money too. And I think that made her laugh, and that made me laugh. And like I said, Monday morning, I'm going back to life as normal, and I went out and did 2 interviews. I bought some Bitcoin. I cut some shit up. I burned some, and then I focused on some wrestling tournaments that we need to kind of get some stuff organized for in the next couple of weeks.
Ben, appreciate it. Thank you very much for the time as always. Respect for showing up and answering the questions, and all the best.
Peace.